educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you, everyone, for coming on today. I have a special guest who calls herself, an introvert or something. I don't know, but she is a presentation designer who specializes in helping clients visualize their content. And something that I would not have considered at this day and age would be PowerPoint, right? But that is something that, most people will have, for the purpose of landing new clients, educating existing internal or external clients, or securing investment capital. Her current clients include some major players out there being Meta, Microsoft, Samsung, and Marriott. I thank her for coming on today. I'm really excited to get into this today. I bring to you Adrienne Johnston. Adrienne, thank you for coming on today.
Maurice, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Sure. So
even if it's to talk about PowerPoint.
I know. I know, right? Because, you don't hear about PowerPoint too much anymore, right? So what made you become an expert, if you will, or a guru using PowerPoint?
Yeah, so I started freelancing in early 2018. I left my corporate job.
Okay.
And got on Upwork and just said, I got to figure this thing out. Like, I'm tired of working 80-hour weeks, so that it was like 3:00 in the afternoon on Fridays, and my boss is the owner of the business, was trotting off to his lake house.
Right.
He was living the good life. And I was like, and I'm the one over here working, Clearly there's something wrong with this. Like, how do I switch this around for me? And so I got on Upwork and was just trying to figure things out, right?
Okay.
But as an introvert, I know that's always shocking because people are like, you're a talker. Introverts can be talkers, but I won't leave the house of my own volition. I don't go seek out, and I don't need that energy. And so, like, I'll be tired after this podcast. I'll be
really?
Yeah. Like, I enjoy being with people, but it drains my energy a little bit.
I can understand.
Yeah. So I got on Upwork and I was doing all kinds of design projects. I mean, everything under the sun, Photoshop, websites, you name it, I was doing it. And one of the things I was doing was presentations. And my background is marketing and operations. So, like, I inherently knew that doing everything wasn't working. Like, I had happy clients, but I wasn't making enough money. So I'm still working 80 hours a week, but making less than I did in corporate. And you're like, well, this is still broken. So you are the lowest common denominator in this situation. And so I said, okay, like, let's look at everything that you've got and figure out, like, what is really working well.
Okay.
And what was really fascinating was that the PowerPoint presentations weren't competitive projects, but they were the highest dollar projects, and they were the fastest for me to get done. So they were like winners on multiple fronts. And I think it's, most graphic designers think PowerPoint, that's not a design tool. Like, they get very hoity-toity about PowerPoint not being a design tool. But I had worked with it. My undergrad was in chemistry. So, like, we had worked with it to deliver all of our, I know. I always laugh. I was like, I should have known that that's what I should have been doing when I was, like, spending more time making my presentations look pretty than caring about what my results were. But it still took 20 years after that to figure it out. So I, just kind of looked at that and said, hey, there's a real opportunity here. And I started Googling and saying, like, who is the best of the best at this? And what I discovered was through a Google search, I inferred that people who are on the first page of Google search results were the best of the best. As it turns out, those people are not the best, or not the best of the best at all. It was people who'd optimized their websites to be there.
Right.
Some of them weren't even presentation design websites or any of that. And so I said, there's an opportunity here for me as an introvert to really stand out as an expert and to leverage that to become an expert at this. And so within 3 months of optimizing my website for presentation design, I started getting leads. Within 6 months, I hit $10,000 months.
Wow.
And so this was within a year of starting my business, 9 months of optimizing for presentation design, I hit $15,000 months.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
really remarkable. And so I really think it's just, for me, it was so important to find, you're familiar with kind of the blue ocean, red ocean. I'm not, maybe everybody isn't familiar with it, but the idea is red oceans are red because of all the competition, right? Like there's blood in the water because everybody's competing for the same clients. And what was interesting as a graphic designer is you hear that now. Like a lot of graphic designers will talk about with AI and Canva and all these tools that are out there that exist now. And so many people wanting to be graphic designers because it's a fun job, that there's so much competition and so many people are, you know, out of work or underpaid. And so to find a way to kind of shift it all to almost to make it kind of a blue ocean for yourself in a way that other people are like, oh, you know, I don't want to do it. And you're like, I mean, I'm laughing all the way with my paychecks every month, right? Like, I don't care if it's PowerPoint. Is it glamorous? No. Do people roll their eyes a little when I say it? Sure. But like, does it, you know, is it building me the life that I want? Absolutely. And so it's a, you know, an easy trade-off for me to make.
So using PowerPoint, again, like you said, you know, people will roll their eyes or look the other way. But you also mentioned how you've used other software. How would you compare the two? You know, that other software that's considered more powerful and things like that compared to a PowerPoint, you know, because someone wants to use maybe Photoshop to, you know, extract an image or things like that. So how would you even think about using PowerPoint over a Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about PowerPoint is that it's not necessarily a really robust, it's not a deep tool in the way that, you know, you can remove a background in PowerPoint, right? But it's always a little grainy and you better have a really nice photo with solid edges. Whereas in Photoshop, you can get some really like, you know, some feathering going on around some curly hair and all kinds of things. You can make a little hair if you need to. You can't do that stuff in PowerPoint. But PowerPoint can do things across the suite of Adobe products. Like it can add movement, like you would do with like After Effects or Premiere. It has vector graphics, which Photoshop doesn't, but Illustrator does. It's kind of more comparable to an InDesign because you've got like the masters where you can apply like a logo that's going to be on every slide and different layouts that you can reuse. So in that regard, it's actually a very powerful tool. But I think what makes PowerPoint really stand out and why clients love it and it's in demand is that it's on 2 billion computers. Right? It's accessible to the end user. They don't have to go back to a designer and say, hey, we now want to change this copy or this graph needs to be updated for this quarter. They can go in and make that update on their own. That's a blessing and a curse. Yes. They don't know what they're doing. But for them, like there's a lot of utility to it. And so they can make that investment in the design and not feel like it's a one-time investment. They can continue to leverage it over and over. And they don't have to pay for software that they don't already have. They don't have to learn new software.
Right. So how can they use that? Because like you said, most people have it, whether it's PowerPoint or the Mac version being Keynote, you know, how can people utilize that? Because you hear, like you said, designers talking about Photoshop and some of the newer stuff being Canva, if you will, because that's quote unquote free, you know, so how do they use that to turn it into a 6-figure a year, or something that can replace their 9 to 5?
For entrepreneurs?
Yes, for entrepreneurs, so or even just a regular, you know, person that's ready to, like, they haven't become an entrepreneur yet, but they're looking to transition into that, and that's, you know, PowerPoint is readily available. So how can they use that to turn that around, turn their fortunes around?
So I mean, I think the first thing to do is, you know, if you don't already have some design background, just understand the basics, some color theory, some layouts, typography. Those are important, right, to being able to design the slides in an effective way. But you certainly don't need to be the world's greatest living expert on design, right? I didn't go to design school. I majored in chemistry. I think if you have that natural knack, I always say, like, it's the people who love watching HGTV and you just love decorating your home. Like you have that design aesthetic. You can look at things and you know when it looks right. And so from there, you can reverse engineer. How do I make it look good?
Right.
So that's an important element. And then from there, it's figuring out, how would I get clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
How could I start to leverage that, that skill set? And we have teachers, right? Teachers use PowerPoint a lot.
Yes.
So I know teachers who have become presentation designers or do it as a side hustle just to make a little bit of extra cash.
Right.
You could make templates and sell them on, a creative market or something like that, because people always buy templates before they go to a professional designer because they think the template's going to help me, and it gets them part of the way there.
Right.
The reality is a template is limited, and they have real world content. So they need their infographics designed, and they need these special things, and they don't have the design skill set to do it. So that would be my advice, would be to start out. I know a lot of people have things to say about Upwork. I loved Upwork for a really safe place to go get started. Right? Like it's so low risk. There are people who are looking for help. They don't have high expectations. They've got really low budgets. It's so low risk to go. I mean, I don't think you're going to build, though there are presentation designers specifically. There's a woman by the name of Courtney Allen that people can look up.
Okay.
She is making $1 million a year with her presentation design agency on Upwork.
Really nice.
Really remarkable woman. So there are people doing it. But I think it's a great place just to go and find people who need help, right? 1 or 2 slides, start building some confidence, because that's the thing. You can practice and practice and practice in PowerPoint, but there is nothing like being under the gun and somebody waiting on you for some real world experience, right?
Right.
And for your $25 that you're going to work 3 hours on, like, it's just a totally different experience. But you build that skill set.
So how would you encourage someone to try to scale something like that, especially if they're just starting out? Because sometimes you hear scale, people get a little nervous, and like you say, even for an introvert, hey, you just mentioned you may be tired after this interview. You may not want to go outside, for another couple of days or whatever it might be, right? So how would someone scale something like, something as simple as this opportunity?
Yeah. So again, for me, it was all about the SEO. Like, how could I position myself as a helper in the world to get people coming to me in a way that was going to work for my personality style? But there are lots of ways to connect with people who need help. You could do LinkedIn direct messaging, works really well for our students. So connecting with executives. So this is an interesting angle. Executives at the big Fortune 500s, they have internal resources who will design their presentations, right?
Yes.
But they're competing. There's a queue. You've got to wait in. So your content has to be done early enough. These are busy people.
Right.
They're doing their stuff 2 days before. Seriously, senior leadership, board of director meetings, annual meetings, all of it.
Right.
And so they hire people independently, freelancers, and they're so protective. Like, they don't want to tell other people internally. Like, I'm going to introduce you to my boss, but don't let them introduce you to anybody else, because I need you to be available for me. And so they want people who are available for them and who are going to give them priority.
Right.
So that's a great way to just go network with those people on LinkedIn and connect with them, so that, hey, next time you have this is a great time of year, by the way, to be doing that. Right? If you're coming up on strategy sessions going into January,
right,
and planning for the next year, just connecting and saying, hey, if you need help with your slide development and making sure that they're top notch for the board, for senior leadership, I'd love to help you out. I have faster turnaround times probably than your internal team, and just acknowledging, like, I get how it works.
Right.
It's huge. And again, I think that's probably better suited for somebody who is comfortable with that outreach. Like, I've never done it. I think I'd be better suited today. Like, I have the confidence to do it.
Yes.
But I still, just even the thought, I'm like, oh, it's so exhausting. But I don't need to do it either, right? I get 5 people a week reaching out to me saying, hey, can you help us? So why would I spend the time to do that? But yeah, if you're just like trying to get started and you don't have SEO yet and you don't have anything else, that's a great way to meet people.
So when you talk about being a designer, and you've mentioned SEO a few times, how important is that for them to start off that way, with their website? Where would you suggest someone that is a beginner, whether they're using Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, Shop, whatever it might be. What would you suggest for someone to be able to optimize that and getting their product and stuff out there?
In my programs, we teach it right at the beginning because it takes so long for you to start ranking. Depending how long your website has been up, Google puts you at, so they call it the sandbox, where they want to trust your website is when it's brand new, that it's going to be the same thing, that you're not saying you're a presentation designer today and then switching to gambling tomorrow. Right. And so they kind of put you in this place where they don't allow you to rank for a while. And so we try to get people to get their websites up and optimized as quickly as possible. But the second piece of that is getting backlinks to your website as well, which is kind of like, it's kind of like a thumbs up from other websites that your website is valid. And so there's the two pieces. It's optimizing your actual website to say, hey, this is a presentation design website. So that Google sees it and recognizes it. But then the other sites are kind of giving you that validity as well on the internet.
So what if I am coming to you, Adrienne, and say, hey, you know what? I don't understand websites and all I really want to do is use social media. What would you suggest to someone in a situation like that?
I think it's totally doable. I think you're going to need to have a strategy with your social media, right? Around your hashtags. You're going to need to have data analytics. Like it's different work that you're going to have to do, but social media is just a different version of search, right? And I know plenty of presentation designers who've built multi-six-figure design businesses with social media, right? And it's a different level. The amount of content you have to crank out, I think, is different. For me, again, for me, that doesn't work because that's exhausting.
Right.
I'm running a lazy business over here, right? I don't want to have to go do outreach. I don't want to have to crank out social media posts. You go look at my social media and you're like, why are these all in the same template? I got too much stuff to do.
I know that's right. Trust me, I know that's right.
Revenue generating work. The rest of this is all just here to show I'm alive.
Right. That's funny. That's right. So in going back to something you had mentioned earlier about templates, do you think that is okay? So maybe going to like a website called like Creative Fabrica or some of them other places like that where they have those type of templates for a PowerPoint or Keynote. Do you think that's something that you would encourage someone to kind of start out off with, so it's not the base that PowerPoint offers, if you will, just to give a different perspective?
Like when you're starting out as doing presentation design?
Yes.
To use templates?
Yes.
I did. I would say probably the first 10 projects or so I was using templates before I realized they were more trouble than they were worth.
Really?
But yeah, it kind of builds your confidence. And we were talking about it in our mastermind group this week. There is an element of like polish and sophistication that comes with those templates. But they look like templates, right? Now, that being said, for some clients, that's kind of the end look they're going for. Right. I think the challenge for most end clients ends up being their content doesn't fit neatly into a template. And so you end up trying to build things around to make it match the template that just don't necessarily work. If that makes sense.
Oh, no, it does. It does. Well,
but yeah,
for me,
but it can be really nice.
I understand. I understand what you're talking about. But now.
But they look good, and it can give you a nice framework to start to understand the design elements.
It does.
Even if you don't know why it looks good yet, someone else has said this looks good.
Right.
And they have that, right?
Right.
So there's hierarchy in the fonts, and these colors go well together. And so, yeah, I think it's a great way to start.
So, I've mentioned Keynote, right? But how about Google Slides? Because Microsoft 365 you have to pay for. Google Slides is one that you don't necessarily have to pay for. So, could people create their company off of something as simple as slides, Google Slides?
Yeah, I think actually Google Slides has more market share than Keynote. So you'll see Keynote more with actual like traditional agencies and designers because they're all on Macs.
Right.
But in corporate, I would say, it's mostly PowerPoint. Most people are still on Microsoft 365. They just still have probably 90 to 95% of the market share. But then I would say the bulk of what's left is Google Slides, because it's so great for collaboration. It's so easy to use. And when you think about like startup costs, it's so easy for new businesses to just go set up at $6 an account on Google.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of people are using Google Slides. We call it like PowerPoint Lite. It just doesn't quite do everything PowerPoint does, but it does go back and forth a little bit easier, I think, than Keynote and PowerPoint.
Really?
So like downloading the things that don't work well are like charts and graphs.
Okay.
They come in and out as pictures from both sides.
Okay.
They don't know. They're like, oh, we don't know what to do with this code. It's a picture now.
Right. Cool. Adrienne, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate you. Please share where anyone can download your free guides, your free masterclass, if you will. Anything, about you.
Absolutely. You can find me at designingandthriving.com. And I've got my free masterclass and several free guides on presentation design. And resources for designers.
So all that information will be in the description below. Now, Adrienne, before I let you go, my would you rather question. I ask everybody this question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Ooh, well, 3 doors sounds like more options, but a fork in the road. You can see, you got to go with the fork in the road. You can see what's coming. Right? Did I get it right?
Maybe.
Is there a right answer?
No, it's up to you. I don't have an answer.
And there's like 2 options. Ooh, that's rough. That's a great question. I love that.
Some people, they like to peek down, down the road a little bit. Some people have wanted to see the feet, the footprints in the ground, go to, road less traveled, right? But then you have quite a few people that say, hey, especially recently, I want more options. I want to go the door route. But I thank you for your, your expression about that. I appreciate that.
Awesome. And thank you so much for having me, Maurice. This has been so much fun.
Really? Cool. Thank you very much. That's cool. With Adrienne, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Continue to listen to That Will Never Work podcast. I will talk to you later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?